Another video of me just talking in my PJs. Yeah. Okay, I don't nobody would know this, but I actually look different right now because I got a haircut yesterday. And if you watched my spiritual hair care video, you would know that it's actually much bigger than it feels because I waited like a year and something to get a haircut because the last time I went and got a haircut, they did me like extremely dirty and just like gave me the worst haircut ever. And I was worried they would do that again if I had bleach in my hair. I've been cutting my hair, whatever. It's in the video, go watch it. But I finally had everything aligned. I had the money. I had my hair like I think was just grown out enough that I went and got a haircut. So I finally my bangs are even. My hair is the same length on both sides, and I don't have any bleach anymore. And that's a big milestone for me, which is gonna be okay. That's not the. It's extremely correlated with what I'm about to talk about, so that's why it had to be mentioned. Basically, what I was going to chat about is that I am in such a funny point in life right now because I feel like on the inside everything is changing so much. Like when I look at my own life, like I'm like, whoa, like there's this really massive thing happening right now. And when I go to talk to people, it seems like I'm literally doing nothing and just like I have nothing going on. And it's so funny. And it's just like okay, I got a haircut and it's like my life is changing now. I'm a changed woman. It means that my goals are coming into place because it's like I had this whole spiritual journey with my hair and now finally the bleach is gone. It's like you got a haircut. Everybody gets haircuts all the time. Or like for example, like okay, I had a meeting with someone from my job and it was like this conversation. It was like all of these things that I've been thinking about and all of these like really important things for my career like converging and it was like really important internally and it was like all these crazy like synchronicities and all these things. But then it's like what happened to like what how have you been? I had a meeting with someone for my job today. Okay. That everybody has meetings with people from their jobs all the time. But it's just like, okay, I feel like it's really hard to get across how important some of these things that are happening are to me because they're so like in this I feel like I'm so like in this like spiritual alignment moment where all of these things are just happening and all these things are coming together and I'm like reading all these books and all of this important information is coming together for me and like I have like all the things that like all like I'm sort of ending this sort of moment period of struggle because all of these things are sort of coming together and are sort of like I don't have anything sort of like lacking too heavily from my life and all these things. And to me it is genuinely like I'm like oh my like I'm like shocked every day and I'm like oh my god like this is happening, I'm succeeding and like my life is going good and like I have all these ideas and it seems like they're starting to come together and like all this stuff. But it's like there's just really no way to get that across to people without seeming like a crazy person and just being like people will like you know what I mean. It's like because I have such a strong internal sense of where everything in my life is going right now. And it's like I but I can't really like explain it to people because there's just like I feel like it's extremely like it's an extremely internal and like personal process that like doesn't really translate well or like I'm gonna seem a little bit delulu if I start to talk to people about like what's going on the inside. But for me it's like whoa like for me it's like the most shocking and intense thing in the world, but for everybody else like nothing is really happening. It's like I don't have like I feel like okay, I have been thinking this year about how funny it is like when you're not in like a friend group or something or like you're not like there's not like actual like romantic drama happening in your life. It's like what do you talk to people about? Like I think like I don't know. It's like what did I used to talk to people that used to be like exciting? Like I feel like when I talk to people now, it's like there's my life is so exciting to me because I'm doing all these things that matter so much to me. But I'm like, what do I talk to other people about? Like what do I tell them about my life? Like I don't have any like friend group situations going on. I'm not going on any big crazy trips. Like nothing crazy is happening on the outside, but so much crazy stuff is happening on the inside. Like on the inside there's so much tea going on. Like so much tea going on about my career and my life on the inside, but on the outside it's like nothing is literally happening. And so it's just so funny. I think it's so funny to be in a period of time where like I have the confidence to know that there's big things happening for me like at a certain like that are gonna appear at a certain point. But it's like there's nothing really yet to show for it, you know? Like it's still just building, building, building internally. And yeah, so it's just like it's really, really hard to like communicate that to people. Or like I think I feel also a little bit vulnerable about the things that like I could communicate. Like, I don't know, like this is what I'm trying to do with my life and this is what I want, and it's like feeling like it's really happening for me, it's really coming together. And it's like it's a little bit like vulnerable to share that with people because I think I'm just like trying to see how things pan out and not get like sort of overly attached or overly like ahead of myself. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just feeling things like heavily shifting like internally, but it's like externally there's really really nothing to say. And I think that's so funny. I'm excited to get into a period of time though when I am going to have things to show. Right now, okay, again, I'm still like it's just everything has been so drawn out. I'm still waiting for my like master's degree program acceptances to come in. I got rejected from two already. And it's like, okay, but it's like, I'm still waiting to hear. And it's like, okay, that's still done. That's like a big thing that I should have to show for myself, but it's like, it's still not here. And it's just like such a drawn out process. And, or just like, I don't know, just so many of the little things that I've been sort of like working towards. Like, there's not really like anything big to show yet. And so it's just not really that, like, I think it's just not really that exciting to people yet. It's like, it's just not there. But I know that at some point, like, it will, like, happen. But I was thinking recently, maybe this will actually be a short conversation for once. I was just thinking about how, like, I feel like I was thinking recently about how, like, we are kind of like a hidden factor in our own lives, and like everything that's going on internally is sort of a hidden factor to like our plans or to like, I don't know, to life, because I think that I have such a deep sense of my own potential, like what I'm smart at and like all the things that I'm good at, and like sort of like I have all of these sorts of visions. And I also feel like I have like this also I think there's a hidden factor to my own life, which is that I went through significantly more experiences than the average person, I think, at this period of time. Like I had all these crazy things happening, moving, having like to figure out like a housing, having to like, like survive traumatic experience. I had an investigation that was, all these crazy things. And it's like I think that basically like when I'm looking at my own plans or when I'm looking at my own life, I'm also factoring in like my personal sort of like soul path, whatever, of like there's like I could have not survived half of those things, but like I did, and that's crazy to me. Or like, like my life a year ago looked like nothing. I hadn't even moved into my like apartment yet this time last. I was reflecting on that this morning. I literally was still living in a hostel this time last year. And from all of that, I've built like a ridiculous amount like of myself in a year. And like, or like I had no knowledge of like certain things that I'm like researching right now. And in the last year, the amount that I've learned, I didn't even think that I was smart enough to know any of this. So I'm looking at this as like, this is like really intense. And this is like a sort of hidden factor of like what's going to happen next, because I've seen personally in my own life how things have just gone in like this really interesting sort of like jump, 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 jump sort of like direction of like, wow, my life is growing at like sort of an unprecedented speed for like myself. And like I think I just went through and was more successful than I thought. And I think that that's an element that's really hard to like communicate to people sometimes, when like, that's why I think I like end up keeping some things to myself, because I'm like I know that like for other people this maybe seems crazy, but for me and like how my life has moved, I know that it's like it doesn't seem crazy to me, because I know like that's just how my life has gone. And I think that it's just sort of been like this hidden factor of like that I incorporate into like my own goals, my own life, of like I know how much I'm capable of. I know like just how much I can handle. I know that I can jump into something with like extreme amounts of like resilience, problem solving skills, and like all of these sorts of sort of like soft skills, like hidden sort of like elements. I don't know if this conversation is coming out in like an organized way, but anyways, yeah, and I think yeah, so I think that there's just I feel like I am like the hidden factor of my life when I go to try to do things, and when I go to make my estimates, I'm estimating in like all of these things, like I could have, like, when I was in like the deepest parts of like my own depression, my own like sort of maladaptive coping mechanisms, like years back, I my life could have like ended, and it didn't. Like, I just kept going, and I crawled my way out of that. And then, like, there's so many times where I could have gone off the deep end mentally. I didn't. Like, I learned, I survived. Like, I like overcame that. And then, like, I could have gotten to London. I could have been like, no, this is too hard. I'm afraid. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to go back home. Like, and I didn't. Like, I just kept going. I did it. And I figured it all out. And I think I'm having this sort of like running equation of in my mind of all of the things that like I have overcome and that I'm capable of, that make me look at bigger and bigger challenges and think like, hey, like, I can do that easy, like, because I've done all the rest. And yeah, I think that's been sort of like when I was moving here, I had like an extended family member like call me and be like, hey, are you sure like that you want to move there? Like, I feel kind of worried, like, all these things, because they'd also heard about like that I had like anxiety, and they were sort of worried like, what if you have a bad. I wasn't really very close to them, so I don't know like what the information they were hearing was, but they were just sort of like, are you sure? What if you don't do mentally like well mentally? And at the moment I was a bit like offended. I was kind of like, but also I think it was like a moment of like a good moment for me of like, no, like again, spite is such a big motivator for me. I was like, no, now I have to make it, because if I don't, like, then it's proving somebody right, right? Not that they were meaning it so well meaningly, but you know what I'm saying. But also I think that I was like, you're looking at the situation from that angle, but I'm looking at the situation from the angle of like, I literally made it through everything in my life. Like, I have, not only do I think I'm smart, I can figure a job out, I've worked since I was 15, but also like I'm looking at it from like, I have basically overcome like every challenge that has been thrown my way, in the sense that I've survived, and I've handled my mental health through like some really severe situations. So like, I have full faith in myself that I can do this. And yeah, and I think that there's just a sort of like inner sense of my own potential, my own strength, that just comes from being like, I have learned like crazy amounts of things. And not only do I feel like I myself, through my hard work, I'm learning, I'm figuring out, like, I'll make it, like, I'm not a complainer, I'm just gonna get it done. But I also think that I also feel like I have just had, call it luck, synchronicity, the universe, whatever, or just, perseverance, whatever. I feel like the universe has just been on my side. Like, I feel like very often, like, I feel like things have sort of come through in really unexpected, but like well worked, like things were, it just worked well for me. And I think I just have that sort of sense of like, I think the universe is always working in my favor. When things, I think like sometimes when I jump into things, I'm like, I am well aware that I could fail. Like, I could fail and I could just not get this, but I'm gonna do it anyways, because like, I'm not embarrassed. Like, maybe I'm embarrassed to tell people like the process, because I'm still a little bit worried, but I'm also like, I'm not embarrassed to like not get something ambitious that I applied for or whatever, because I know that like I have the sense that the universe is always leading me towards higher. Like, if I don't get something, it doesn't mean that I'm bad. It doesn't mean that it's just because I suck. It's like there's something even better out there for me, because it's always worked out that way, that the things that I was like, it has to be this, I'm like worried that's not going to be this. It's like every time something better has come along. That's why I'm out here. And I think sometimes it's embarrassing to tell people about the big jumps that you're trying to make. And I'm not expecting like the big jumps to be the end goal, but I'm just expecting myself to, I have the expectation of myself to put myself out there in those situations, and like put yourself out there in those big ambitious jumps, and something will come of it. And it's more about always exposing myself to new information, to like bigger possibilities, and not shying away from like sort of the vulnerability of doing that, because when you do that, you just have all of these sorts of like, you could get that thing, like you could get the big thing. It has happened. But also, if you don't get the big thing, I've learned so much. Like, I one of my big things that I did this year is I applied for a PhD program. Okay, I didn't think that I was going to get into a PhD program. I wasn't even planning on applying for a PhD program per se, but I was like, you know what? Let me just do it. Like, let me just do it. And I didn't get accepted. I got rejected, okay? I wasn't expecting to get accepted. But through applying, I actually learned I had to basically get myself like do a research proposal that was PhD worthy. Was my PhD proposal PhD worthy? No, I don't believe that it was. It obviously wasn't for that particular program at least, but I had to do extensive amounts of research to try to make this proposal. And in doing that extensive amount of research, I learned a lot. Like I learned a lot about the field that I want to go into to the degree that I could later go on to other rooms, other conversations with other people, like a meeting that I had last week that was like a few days ago. And then I had that information. So then all of a sudden I sound like I know what I'm talking about because I do, because I had to research it. And then that person could say, hey, like, that's cool. Let me give you a contact so you can talk to that contact and tell them your idea. You see, so it goes like that, where if you allow yourself to imagine like making it in a bigger place, you start to embody the energy of that bigger place. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get to that bigger place per se, but it means that you're starting to see yourself as worthy of maybe even getting it, you know, and then you learn. And the other thing that actually came out of getting rejected from that program was that I was sort of wandering around one day and just feeling like sort of stressed out or nervous and just feeling a bit like, oh man, like that was kind of stupid. Why did I apply to that? Even though there was no reason to feel stupid and I knew that consciously, but I think still, I think sometimes we look at the world. I think like that, like when we talk to other people or like a lot of people look at the world from like a smaller perspective of like it has to be the obvious thing. Like if you rejection means failure. Like rejection means you're stupid or you did the wrong thing, you went too far. But it's like I don't consciously look at it like that, but I think subconsciously I still kind of have that mentality, and it's still embarrassing to tell people I failed at something because I don't want them to think I was so like high and mighty to think that I could get that. But it's like it was less about that and more about the challenge, right? And I think that anyways, I was walking around and then out of that I was like, you know what, I don't know why, like for some reason that made me want to start a YouTube channel. So I was like, okay, cool, I guess I'm starting a YouTube channel, and that's been really fun for me. And just like, yeah, it's not like anything's come of it yet, but it's just been like a fun thing, and it just helped me. And it's, yeah, so I was like, I think still like good came of it. And I think I've been trying to not like, I think I've been trying to sort of do a little bit of just like, okay, I'm giving myself the leeway of not telling everybody everything that I'm doing all the time so that I don't get too bogged down and feeling like dumb and just feeling exposing myself 24/7 to like everything. But I think that it just completely lost track of where like what I was, why I even mentioned this in the first place. But yeah, I think it's still just good to, I think that's what I was saying, that's why I'm not really afraid on like, personally, like on an internal level, to jump for things that seem higher than what I think I'm capable of, because I know that it's not about whether I'm worthy of them or not, but it's just about the process. It's just about doing things. It's just about putting yourself in the position to feel okay getting rejected, to be okay learning, and then you will learn. Like you will learn. If I didn't have like, I think I'm learning so much just by having like sort of ridiculously high goals and things like that. And it's like I don't, if I don't get 100% there, so be it. But like I'm still learning extensive amounts through this process that are going to be useful to my life, and you just don't know when those things are going to be useful and how they pan out. They might not pan out in the way that you envisioned in the immediate level. And I'm trying to think of things less in the immediate level and more on like a bigger level of becoming a bigger person and just being somebody, like I feel right now so extremely informed, so much more knowledgeable than I was before. I feel so much more capable, and I feel like I am just learning so many skills. And that's why I think my life feels like it's growing really, really fast, because I'm just having the courage more and more to step into these moments. And, I think that I just feel like such a different person from like who I was last year. And I have so many more of the things than, I think that I didn't even see myself as like, disciplined person who could finish things. Like this time last year, there was things I still hadn't finished. I actually didn't get to finish my undergraduate thesis at school because I was really, really sick. This was like the second semester of my senior year, and I had the end of like 2.5 year long sort of investigation against this person who like committed violence against me was my first semester of senior year at school. So I was in this really messed up headspace, and it was really hard to sort of write this sort of thing. But I left and I was like, I don't want to leave here. Like, I think I want to feel like someone, I don't want to be someone who doesn't finish things. I don't want to be someone who, like, can't complete things. And so I actually, this, during this last year, I actually finished my undergraduate thesis, not for a grade. I didn't get anything from it or anything like that, but I was like, I'm gonna finish it. And it took me like weeks of my own time. Like, I spent my own time on it, my own everything. Like, nobody was pushing me to finish it, but I finished it. And that was an extremely satisfying moment for me. That was like in this last year. And in doing that, I think again, it's like I have the sensation of everything being for our highest good, because I actually went back through and started to connect things that I was reading in books I wouldn't even have thought to read or had access to back then. I started to connect things from neuroscience to it. Like, I started to make the connection between these sorts of metaphorical things that I had written, or things that were just sort of brainstormy, and then I didn't really know like how to contextualize them. But over that last year, I started to read, like this last year, I started to read books about neuroscience. And I was like, that's what I was saying. Like, that's what I was saying right there. And so then it started to be like, pew, 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 pew. And so then I started to learn and read and be like, wow, I have like something here. Like, I want to keep pursuing this. And so those are just those little, like, important sort of moments that, yeah, I don't know. Also, that come from just not giving up on things and just having your own sort of like way of moving through the world. Now, again, if I were to tell people that, I think for the average person, be like, so you didn't finish your work, and now you kept, like, you finished it. That's cool. What is it? What comes of that, right? But for me, it was extremely important because I was like, I don't think anyone's thinking of it in those words, but it just like it's kind of like that's cool. But for me, it was massive. Like, for me, it's like this is life shifting because I finished it and I wrote it, and it's like big, and I did it on my own. At this point I didn't have to do it for a grade, so I was just sort of like I got to like incorporate myself and my like new ideas and just explore my own sort of theories. And also I was like, whoa, I'm starting to see the connections here, because yeah, so that's what I mean by like, I think sometimes the things that I'm navigating in my life right now are like deeply personal. And because they're deeply personal, they have such an intense, like, sort of place in my life, and they're so important to me. But I think, yeah, I think when it doesn't really translate out into like sort of feeling like really like I look like I'm being really successful. I don't have like all these sorts of like wins on like externally, but I have so many internal wins that I've gained this year that it's making me feel intense amounts of motivation, power. Like, it's for when you tell people like my habits are coming together, like I'm like being really healthy, I'm like juicing every day, like who, what, or most days, like I'm making, like, I'm talking in YouTube videos and publishing them, and I'm like, doing these things. And it's like, I doesn't like when you look at it from the external, it's like, that's cute, that's cool, like, that's cool that you're doing that. It's cool that you're like, I don't know, I'm learning how to cook, just stuff like that, where it's like, that's cool. But I think it's more for me about this bigger, like, it's something much bigger for me, which is that I'm starting to feel capable, and I'm starting to feel like I can, like, influence my life, and I'm starting to feel empowered to just pick up and start doing the things that are important to me. And because of that, I know that some of the bigger goals that are in the back of my mind, or really in the forefront of my mind right now, like, they're going to come to fruition, and I can trust myself higher and like in higher and higher ways. And that's the importance of like these sorts of personal things that are coming together in my life that really aren't that exciting to like talk about to other people. Like, it's not really, I think people would just be like, that's cool, or like, that's interesting. But it's, for me, it's like, you don't understand. It's massive. Like, it's not anything small for me at all. It's something really big. And it's also the fact that like my sense of self has shifted so much, because I used to see myself as someone who wasn't capable of doing these things. Now all of a sudden I'm seeing myself as somebody capable of having these habits, somebody capable of doing these things. And I'm starting to feel really unshakable, and I'm starting to feel like I can take on big projects. And that's like the biggest, I think that's the important shift for me, because I think like it's really like I said in another video, I think the important thing is like sometimes it's less about just pushing for opportunities and more about getting in alignment, because then one day that really perfect opportunity is going to come along and you're just going to be ready. Like, it's just going to like go well. And I think that sometimes we throw ourselves into things and we're just like, like, why didn't it work out 100%? And it's like, because you just on the inside, you didn't feel yet sometimes like the person that you needed to be for this to really come into fruition. And it's not doesn't mean that you failed. That's information. That means that you need to start also now going back and doing the sort of shadow work to be like, what was stopping me from succeeding in the way that I wanted to succeed back then? For me, why didn't I finish my undergrad thesis? I was really, really, really sick. My life was kind of falling apart. I was exhausted. I was, I didn't have 100% of the information. I think there was like a direction and I didn't have the information yet to sort of make it come to life. And that's okay. I think I didn't get the initial win of like, oh, now it's entered in this contest and I got an A and it's, all these things. I didn't get that. I had to sort of just I was forced to submit it unfinished. They were nice enough to me to give me like a decent grade on it because I think I still wrote like 40 pages. It wasn't anything small, but it just like now it's like okay, now I finished that. And so now that's showing to me that I'm starting to become somebody who is going to finish things and somebody who can commit. I'm a committed person. And because of that, I think next time I get an opportunity to do something like that, it's like I will not let it go. Like it's going to be really good for me. And in the meantime, I've rested. In the meantime, I've gotten good habits. In the meantime, my mental health is like significantly better from everything that I did this year. And that's the thing that's important to me because it's partly about your goals, like, having that big goal, but then also coming in alignment. And it's like, okay, it's like everything. The big goal, the opportunities that come your way right now, I haven't really 100% gotten the opportunity. So I can't do anything about that. What I can do is just keep sort of taking inspired action, meeting people, asking people questions, reading all these things. And then, okay, so there's the opportunities, there's like the goal, and then there's this sort of like mentality. I think your mentality is really, really important and your sense of like, I can do it. And I think they all need to sort of come together in alignment for something big to happen. And that's what I'm feeling is going to start to happen in my life. Okay, I really do feel that time is coming and I've been feeling that shift recently. And it's like that's why little things like there's no more bleach in my hair. Like to me they're like so big. I'm like, oh my god, it's happening. Like it's changing. Everything's changing. This like big goal with my hair. Like I met a goal with my hair, which is so silly, but or like, I'm like my there's bigger things too. We just did our last participant for my study today, so that's exciting. Now it's just about coding everything and but I think it's just yeah, I think it's just these things that are sort of really personal, but it doesn't make them less important. I guess my last point is that I've also been reflecting recently on I guess it excites me to imagine myself in the future as somebody who's going to be hiring people or as like a professor or whatever wherever my personal research career takes me. I think that like I've just learned the value of a story like mine and I've learned the value of people who have gone, overcome challenges or who are resilient people. I think that's something that sometimes I think story parts of my story or parts of my own like job application or something like that aren't really that obvious to people, but I think that one day when I'm like an employer or one day when I'm in that position to be helping new people come along, that's something that I will have the sort of insight, I guess, to recognize. And I think that makes me feel excited because I think everything that I've been through has made me somebody so passionate and dedicated at my job and somebody who so passionate about what I'm studying and all these things. And even for example, um I switched fields, right? And I guess sometimes I think that oh, I don't have as much experience in psychology or something as somebody who has been through a bachelor's degree program or maybe has more work experience. I think is always important, but I don't have maybe the bachelor's to sort of show, and then I'm also making that switch. But I think that coming from my perspective, being someone who's done that, I know that that switch into another field also indicates that it was something that I wanted. I have that intentionality of like this is what I care about rather than sort of just I picked I just picked something I thought I'd be good at or I guess it's interesting to me for me, it's everything. For me, it's something so important and I care about it so much. And I'm always showing up and always caring about my study, my job, my everything, my career because I made the switch rather than just going along a sort of set path. And that's not to say that people who've gone on the set path aren't also dedicated. I just mean that I think that these are little indicators that I think for some people are sort of like um a drawback, like, a downside, but for me they would indicate differently because I went through that story. And I think I just wish that there were more people in the world who were sort of, teaching students from that point of view, or, or also just, hiring from that point of view of, I think that there's so many soft skills that people learn from just being, from moving to a new city, from going through a sort of negative period in their life, from having a period of failure. A period of failure is amazing. That teaches you so much and it gives you the sort of motivation and dedication to keep trying. And yeah, I just think that sometimes people go for these really obvious sorts of indicators of success, but there's sort of these non obvious indicators of success and these sort of hidden factors that I think can show something much deeper about who that person is likely to be in a workplace or the kind of dedication that they're going to bring to their field. And those are, I think, actually the more important factor because, for example, I had to switch fields. So I had to do a lot of learning fast. So I'm someone who can pick up a lot of information really fast, and I'm finding that this year. Or, I'm somebody who, I moved to a new city, so I had to sort out myself an entirely new sort of environment, and I succeeded. And I think that, like, those are sort of little things that I think I'm excited to see in other people later on down the line when I'm, I don't know, a PI, or I was thinking about that myself as like a research assistant and just learning all of the things that it takes to be a good research assistant. I'm like, I can't wait to also one day hopefully hire my own research assistants and be able to see those sorts of indicators of passion and just dedication.